Hi, in this short video I will go over section 3.6 in the IGCSE Marine syllabus. Here in new 2024 syllabus I'll be using the Cambridge book, and this is life cycles, and as always everything here is non-profit and any errors in these videos are mine and mine alone and do not reflect on Cambridge in any way. Sorry for my voice, I still have a cold, and this video is made for my class, but if anyone can use it, you're more than welcome to. So for this video, we are going to be talking about marine life cycles, one of a vertebrate and one of an invertebrate. And in the syllabus, it's stated that we should focus on the cycle of the leatherback turtle and of the coral polyp. Again, we are just scratching the surface here, and there are many very interesting life cycles, especially among the invertebrates. But you can also find some very fascinating migration patterns for life cycles among fish. But again, we are just going to focus on the leatherback turtle and on the coral polyp. The leatherback turtle is the largest of all the living turtles, and they are huge. They are globally distributed. You find them in many oceans, and you find them swimming around in the ocean. But they're also being threatened both by fishing and by humane destruction of their environment, especially if, as we see here, any destruction of the beaches they use for spawning is quite fatal. So it's a cool species, but also a species that is quite affected by human activities. So the leatherback turtle's life starts when it hatched from an egg that's been buried in the sand by its mother about 55 to 60 days ago. The young turtle then have to crawl the dangerous crawl across the sandy beach to get into the ocean. And at this time, there's a heavy predation going on, and many of them will die even before making it to the sea. Once they are in the ocean, they now live in the sea where they'll grow and they'll reach sexual maturity after 15 to 25 years. So the small turtles, they'll grow into larger turtles. And then we have two different cycles, one for the adult female and one for the adult male. The male and females, they'll mate and reproduce every 2 to 5 years, but the male, they stay in the ocean and will never return to land. The female, on the other hand, after mating, she will return to the same sandy shore when she was hatched herself. At night, they dig out sand with the flippers and make a nest, and then lay their eggs in nests, and then they make quite a few nests to cover in sand, and then return to the ocean. And the female repeats this in different places every 10 days to make sure that all the eggs are placed in one nest. And then we wait about 60 days, and then we'll see hatching of the new batch of leatherback turtles. So a quite interesting thing about the leatherback turtle is that the temperature of the sand determines the sex. If you have a low temperature for a tropical beach, below 27.7, all the embryos become male. And if you have a high temperature, above 31, all the embryos become female. And between those temperatures, we get a mix. So sex is determined by the temperature. Egg incubation is about 55 to 60 days, and it's a very few of the turtles here who actually make it to adulthood. That's also why the female turtle lays so many eggs, because only about 1 in 1,000 actually make it out to the sea. That is also why that if overfishing or ghost nets end up killing turtles, it can be quite hard for the population to establish itself, because it takes a long time to get enough adult turtles to get a population going again. Corals are invertebrates, and they are from the phylum Cnidaria, and I'll refer you back to the earlier part of the chapter to think about invertebrates. So they are an animal, although they can look like a plant, and they are an animal who form reefs, especially the hard corals, their reef formation. And many of them, they live in a symbiotic relationship with the microalgae we call zooxantel, where the microalgae, they do photosynthesis and thereby
provide the coral with carbohydrates and energy. It's a very, very cool kind of symbiotic relationship between an algae and an invertebrate. But the corals have a very interesting way to do reproduction.
So the life cycle of the corals start when the mature polyps, they release a massive number of sperm and eggs into the water. The sperm and eggs, they fuse together in the water, and then we have a fertilized egg who float towards the surface of the water. And while floating upwards, the fertilized egg hatches into a larvae. And these small larvae are attracted to the light, so they swim to the surface. They will live in the surface water where they'll feed on plankton. But they're also themselves the food for many other organisms, so there's a high predation pressure here. Now, it's very important for corals to spread with larvae like this because when they're grown, they can't move. They are attached to a substrate. So we have the ability of the larvae to spread out means there will be less competition for resources for the offspring. They don't have to grow up right next to the parents. Now the larvae, they swim around in this plankton phase where they float with the water. And how long they're there depends from species to species. After larvae have grown enough, they fall to the seabed where they'll look for a hard surface to attach themselves on. So if they find a rock or a piece of sea wreck or whatever, then they'll attach themselves to them. And then they change into the coral polyp. And this is called metamorphosis, which is a change of larvae into a different kind of organism. And now I have a coral polyp, which will start growing. And then it can now undergo asexual reproduction by budding to produce more coral polyps, and thereby we get the formation of a new coral colony, and this might eventually turn into a new reef.
The sexual reproduction of the coral happens with something we call broadcast spawning. So since the eggs and the sperm cells have to meet themselves in the water column, it's important that all the corals do so at the same time. And we don't clearly understand how they do it, how they time the release, but they do. So at a certain time, all the coral polyps will release the egg and the sperm at the same time, which means there's a high chance that the eggs will fertilize and that a lot of larvae will start forming at the same time. It also means there'll be a lot of food for any animals who like to eat the polyps. The larvae.